Okay, and we're taping. This is Keith Haggerty, and
Benjamin Walker.
oh, I don't have my headphones on. I just realized that. Hopefully, everything goes okay regardless. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, our debate is on internet censorship. I'm taking the pro position, and Jamila's taking the con. And I'm going to start. The pro, well, looking towards the future of internet censorship, and I'm going to be reading this just in case anybody realizes that my face keeps looking down. But my first issue is about hate speech. And when it comes to censorship, particularly censorship of online hate speech, the timeless saying of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me is based on the classic American interpretation of free speech and the old adage's assumption that words, even hateful words, are merely an extension of a thought and not a malicious violent act. However, words can do far more emotional damage than they are ever given credit for, tarnishing reputations and feelings of self-worth. There's the prevailing belief that positive reasoning can combat all forms of hate-fueled speech, such as the belief that the collective good will ultimately weed out the bad. And in a sense, I do believe in the power of reason and common sense, such as someone making bigoted or racist remarks on social media site or community message board will also have their fair share of detractors and those calling the offender out on their inappropriate remarks. However, once the hate speech is already communicated to the public, the damage is already done, no matter how much positive retaliatory speech tries to fight against it. And while the overall numbers of hate-driven online users is a small yet vocal percentage, sadly their venom casts a far-reaching net of negativity. Sure, there's far more positive contributors online than those seeking to cause trouble, but in a sense, that's still little consolation since it's much like telling someone who was just attacked and mugged that it's not such a big deal because there's plenty of other good people out there who didn't mug them. And that's my first position on why we need to censor it because of hate speech.
Okay. My first point on against internet censorship is the First Amendment. And the First Amendment has always protected public speech and print media, so it's only natural that we would extend this to the internet. If more and more of our actions take place online, we should be guaranteed the same rights in cyberspace than we enjoy in normal space or reality. The internet provides a diversity of information, which has the ability to reach almost anywhere in the world. Most internet users enjoy their freedom of speech. First Amendment protects democracy, allows people to express their ideas, whether they agree with it or not. Censorship kills the spirit of cooperative knowledge, sharing that makes the net valuable to millions. Freedom of expression is what makes the internet important and enjoyable, and it should not be waived for any reason. That's
See,
my point one.
see, that's tough because I agree with a lot of your points, and you're just making me look dumb. My next point is about if we look towards the future, if America was to go towards internet censorship, what could they actually do? And one thing would be, I look to the European model with expunging offensive material. And for guidance on how other Western democratic nations are addressing issues of internet censorship, America could look to this European model, which is overseen by the European Court of Justice, whose jurisdiction covers all 28 European Union members, or approximately 500 million people. In America, there are certain laws restricting offensives, regardless if they occur online or offline, such as child pornography, libel, or threats of physical violence. In Europe, however, they take it one step further by having measures in place to restrict online material the European Court of Justice deems offensive to particular groups or people. In addition, the European Court of Justice bases many decisions on what has been termed, quote unquote, the right to be forgotten, or the right of ordinary citizens to have more control over their personal data online. For instance, in France, convicted criminals who served their time and completed rehabilitation have the right to have any reference of their past criminal activities removed from search engine results altogether, assuming there is no legitimate reason for keeping it. According to the European Commission, the right is, and I quote, about empowering individuals, not about erasing past events or restricting freedoms of the press. While I don't necessarily believe America needs to adopt the same exact measures as the French model, where one's troubled past can simply be wiped clean by hitting the delete key, I do find the French notion of empowering individuals through censorship an intriguing one. That's my second point.
I'm gonna put my point 2 and 3 in one because I'm looking and I'm like, this is really lengthy. So
Is it about the French internet censorship?
So my point 2 against internet censorship is that it's hopeless to attempt to control the flow of information. Governments may place restrictions on the information, and internet providers can restrict access to materials on the internet. However, the nature of the internet is to distribute information freely, and getting around those barriers is only a small technical obstacle. It's easy for those who do not understand how the internet works to imagine that if we try hard enough, we can clamp down on X-rated websites like we do X-rated films. On the internet, anyone can be an author, publisher, and worldwide distributor without training. Internet censorship is a nice idea, but it's just not practical. And if censored, it creates an environment of tremendous fear and uncertainty for technological innovations, seriously harm the credibility of the United States in its role as a steward of key internet infrastructure. The U.S. government has regularly claimed that it supports free and open internet, but if they try to censor the internet, they truly do not understand the internet themselves. I barely understand the internet, but I know that by censoring it will affect me personally. That's my point 3.
No, excellent. Well, my final point was just on social media platforms and internet censorship, and mine was about some social media platforms have already begun to take their own measures to step up forms of self-imposed censorship, such as Facebook, which last year, in an effort to appease its advertisers, began to aggressively remove ads from pages and groups that hosted content deemed violent, graphic, or sexual in nature. In a statement released by Facebook to announce their decision, the social media giant said, quote, "We know that marketers work hard to promote their brands and we take their objectives seriously. While we already have vigorous review and removal policies for content against our terms, we recognize we need to do more to prevent situations where ads are displayed alongside controversial pages and groups, so we are taking action," end quote. With more than 1 million active advertisers, Facebook may have certainly acted out of a response to an economic pressures than any sense of civic duty or high moral obligation. However, a month earlier, Facebook also came under scrutiny by feminist groups who campaigned for an improvement to the site's process when it came to identifying and removing pages glorifying violence against women. Nissan and other similar advertisers responded to the protest by pulling their ads from Facebook, while other prominent advertisers such as Zappos, Dove, and American Express issued statements denouncing violence against women. Still, one has to ask the million-dollar question of whom or what online entity is making the final judgment in determining just what exactly is considered offensive. Should it be determined by our government, private decency groups with their own promoted agenda, or simply left up to each domain and internet site to decide for themselves on a case-by-case basis? Moving forward, perhaps this demonstrates the power and dominant influence economic concerns truly will play in any potential internet censorship movement, where advertising dollars will inevitably trump any imposed legislation. However, it also makes me wonder what kind of moral barometer we'll have to navigate when censoring degrading or offensive material is more about dollars and cents and less about common sense. That's my little play on words for the final piece, and that's all my debate stuff.
Well, my final part is, I think you mentioned that Facebook is with their restriction and censorship, but the internet actually adds $2 trillion to the annual GDP, and internet advertising is responsible for $300 billion of economic activity. And Facebook itself gave over 200,000 jobs, and that was from their internet ads on the Facebook page. So censoring internet kind of reduces people from finding jobs, particularly on the internet or social media sites. And censoring the internet, wait, no, let me backtrack. Censoring internet has no effect on protecting us from websites such as child pornography, violence, selling illegal drugs, etc. It's a false security. Websites can move, evolve, and reemerge days, weeks, or even months later. The web is as powerful as its users and as influential as we all want it to be. It's not perfect, and we should care what content is available, but to leave it in the government's hands, we should all worry. And there is no single authority figure for the internet as a whole. Francis Hentoff, writer for the Village Voice, said, "On an info superhighway driven by individuals, there are no cops preventing users from downloading. Information is available to everybody on the internet, and everybody with the appropriate tools can retrieve it and use it. Thank you.
Ah, thank you. And I think that concludes our debate. Congratulations, by the way. I know it's a tricky night.
It was very
Hold on, I'm gonna hit the stop record button now. Hold on.